Brother lads, welcome back to Cossy Arsenal Podcast. My name is Cossy. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in all parts of the world. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to a brand new video. Arsenal have added another defender to their ranks, and that is Jurrien Timber, right from Ajax. So the big question is, why have Arsenal signed Jurrien Timber? He's a right back, centre back. Why haven't we gone for the traditional right backs in Joao Cancelo, Timothy Castagne, and all the likes of Ivan Fresneda? Why have Arsenal gone for such a very, very advanced profile of a centre back stroke right back? In this video, I'm going to be diving into everything you need to know about how Jurrien Timber fits into Arsenal and the lineups and systems Mikel Arteta could actually use with him. Now, this is a signing. This is a player that will give us the effect of John Stones in the Manchester City lineup last campaign, starting out at right back but then drifting into midfield, and that is something that I think Mikel Arteta really loves to do. We've seen it with Ben White. It has tried a couple of times. I think Mikel Arteta also tried it with Thomas Partey during the back end of last campaign. He tried to play Thomas Partey at right back as he drifts into midfield, especially with Alexander Zinchenko picking up a few injuries here and there. So is Jurrien Timber the new Alexander Zinchenko? Is Jurrien Timber the guy that is going to replace William Saliba, or is he the guy that is going to be replacing Benjamin White in the Arsenal starting 11? Hit the like button, subscribe to the podcast as well. I want to ask you a very easy question. If Jurrien Timber is going to start every single game for us in the Premier League, name one player you would like him to replace. I was talking to a friend here and he thought Jurrien Timber is a replacement to Gabriel Magalhaes. I don't think he is, but that shows you that some people think Gabriel Magalhaes needs to be upgraded upon, and that has always been my opinion as well. Let's get this video to 500 likes, and let's dive into the positions that Mikel Arteta can use Jurrien Timber in next season. Now, starting off at as a right back, I think that is one of the positions that we all can agree that Arsenal need to upgrade desperately. I've already talked about an offensive full centre back. I've already talked about an offensive right back. I think the first position we will see Jurrien Timber line up at Arsenal next season is that right back position. Now, Ben White has played at right back for quite some time for Arsenal, and we cannot really say he's had a bad season, but then we cannot also say that he's excelling absolutely very well in the position as well. So I think there is some kind of mediocre settlement between Arsenal fans and Benjamin White. There are times when he's absolutely okay, and there are times when he's absolutely horrendous. There are no games where I've seen Benjamin White hitting those levels of the likes of Joao Cancelo, Ivan Fresneda, even John Stones. I've not seen him play like that. Clearly you need someone who's built for that role. Clearly you need a player who's ready to adapt to the role if you're actually going to play him as inverted right back. So Ben White for me could be losing his place to Jurrien Timber in the Arsenal starting lineup. That is the first position we could play Jurrien Timber starting next season. Now the next position that Arsenal could play Jurrien Timber is definitely at right centre back, and this is one that will trigger a couple of people, but listen to me, and I want you to listen to me very well. William Saliba is a player that has, absolutely performed beyond expectation. I do not think there is anyone in the world that will ever feel William Saliba needs to be replaced at Arsenal. I personally don't feel like that, and I personally feel he's one of the best centre-backs and one of the best young centre-backs in the world. But there are times when you need to rotate your team. There are times when players pick up injuries. We saw it with William Saliba last campaign. He picked up an injury, 11 games to go, and we didn't have options. Oh, I'm sorry. We had options. Rob Holding was there, and I can tell you, Rob Holding didn't do the job, but he absolutely messed up the job. So I think, Mikel has looked at that, and he has gone, I need a centre-back to cover on my right-hand side, and I need a centre-back to cover for my left-hand side. So we might see Kivio play a couple of games alongside William Saliba at centre back. We might see Kivio play a couple of games alongside Timber as well at centre back. But I highly reckon that Arsenal could start the season with Jurrien Timber at centre back, Gabriel Magalhaes at centre back, as William Saliba keeps on evolving through his injury. We might see Timber, Gabriel, Ben White, and possibly Alexander Zinchenko starting the season. Now, I really think and I really hope Saliba comes back full in form, and I really hope that when Saliba comes back, he's that centre back, he's that Rolls Royce of centre back that we have seen this season, because it's going to be absolutely crucial to our UEFA Champions League campaign and to our Premier League campaign as well. So that is position number 2, where you can play Jurrien Timber, same as John Stones, if you've been following John Stones at Manchester City this season. The other place you can play him is right here into the centre, into CDM, and I think this is where we will see a lot of his work when he plays at right back. Right, I will be diving into how Arsenal will use him as a midfielder, very, very close to what Alexander Zinchenko is offering us. But that is another position where we will see Jurrien Timber play. When we play a back four, and for example, you have Kieran Tierney, who is very, very comfortable in a back three, by the way, or Tomiyasu, he's very comfortable in a back three, and then Gabriel and William Saliba, and then Jurrien Timber. It means that one of those centre-backs has to invert into midfield. And that is the reason as to why Jurrien Timber is going to be a midfielder most of the time when he starts at right back. I don't think Kieran Tierney is a bad player. I just don't think Kieran Tierney is ready for the new role of a fullback, inverting into midfield and doing all the things that the likes of Kevin De Bruyne, Alexander Zinchenko are doing on the ball. Like, these guys are natural born midfielders. You don't expect Kieran Tierney to do that. Now, Alexander Zinchenko in the Premier League for Arsenal last campaign had the most passes in the team, most progressive passes in the team, most penalty and most balls into the penalty area. Again, ranking first at Arsenal. So I think without Alexander Zinchenko, you can see why Arsenal usually struggle. We struggle to create, we struggle to keep things ticking, and we also struggle to get the ball rolling as well. That's why Timber then, is very, very important to our system. That when you do not have Alexander Zinchenko, you can play a back four that turns into back three. So the back four would be Tomiyasu, Gabriel, Saliba, and Timber. That turns into a back three. When Timber inverts into midfield, you have a back three of Tomiyasu, Gabriel, and Saliba in a back three. And then, of course, you have Timber inverting into midfield with either Declan Rice or, at this point in time, Thomas Partey. Now, there are a few other positions that people are talking about. He plays here, he plays there. But in my opinion, those other positions that I think Jurrien Timber is thriving, or at least, according to my research, that is where Jurrien Timber has played in recent seasons for Ajax and for the Netherlands as well. I think his experience at the Netherlands will give Arsenal and Mikel Arteta a lot of confidence in signing him, because you have a player who has played, I think, around 4 systems in one season. Now, he's played at right back at Ajax, where he's been inverting into midfield. If you go and watch that Liverpool game that they played against Ajax, you will see he had a very, very good game, by the way. And then he's also played at centre back at Ajax, in a back four, playing as a right centre back alongside. I'm not really sure. I think he's been playing alongside. Is it Bako or Bayo, something like that? So he's played a couple of systems at Ajax this season. Then he's played in a back three for the Netherlands, with him playing at right back, at right centre back, Virgil van Dijk in the middle of the three, and Nathan Ake on the left hand side of the three. So how do we then visualize this? Let's dive into the tactical board. How I think Arsenal are going to set up with Jurrien Timber. Right, so let's dive into it. Now, I did do a video about Kai Havertz. You can check it out. It really highlights the role of the new right back in Jurrien Timber. So the first thing Mikel Arteta wants to do is to attack with numbers and create midfield overloads, and also create a box midfield. Right. This is actually something we've done this season. You have Gabriel Jesus moving further forward. You have Gabriel Martinelli moving further forward as well, and Saka also maintaining that kind of width. That means that Odegaard will push a little bit up, up into this right-hand space, and then Kai Havertz could also push up in this space as well. So that leaves Thomas Partey as the only defensive midfielder, or the only pivot. But maybe he's not the only pivot, because Partey pushes towards Martin Odegaard's side, and then Alexander Zinchenko pushes into midfield towards Kai Havertz. So there we have our box midfield, and I'm gonna give you the advantages that this has given us since last campaign, playing a midfield of a box. I just want to change the colors. I just said blue. It's not the color I really use when it comes to the tactical board. Right, so here we go. This is what it would be like if Arsenal played Kai Havertz, Partey. Right, let's do that. So this is the box midfield that will definitely be, creating with Mikel Arteta. That is the box midfield. And what this does for us, literally, it just helps us overload the midfield. We are playing with three. We are playing with 4 midfielders instead of 2 or instead of 3, like many systems. I'll give you an example of Liverpool. When they were very dominant, they played Jordan Henderson in midfield. They played, I think that was Wijnaldum then in midfield, and they also played Fabinho. But in most cases, Trent Alexander-Arnold inverted into midfield. It was really inverting into midfield. So that helped them to create as many overloads in midfield as possible. So that's what we are trying to do with Jurrien Timber and Alexander Zinchenko. So you have this turning into a back 3 with Gabriel covering for Alexander Zinchenko, William Saliba covering for Gabriel, and then of course Ben White covering for covering for the right back, or literally being the right back, but in terms in form of a left center back. So with Jurrien Timber, it's gonna be very, very similar, but in this case you have 1 or 2 things to think about. The first thing is Alexander Zinchenko then is out of the team because of an injury, because of rotation, maybe, and this could be even in-game tactics when maybe Alexander Zinchenko is not having a good day in office. You can take him off the pitch and then you introduce Jurrien Timber. So that this literally means that Gabriel pushes further down, William Saliba at the center of our midfield, right there, at the center of our back four, and then you'll have another center back, probably Benjamin White, pushing into right back, right center back, and then of course we would have here, Jurrien Timber. So let's name this one Jurrien Timber, just for this video. So Jurrien Timber 16, right? Yeah, Timber 16. So if Timber comes into a back 4 without Zinchenko, it means Timber is the player that can invert into midfield. So literally, Timber will be the player joining up with Thomas Partey to form a box midfield. I just want to form a box here because, all right, there you go. So that is the box midfield we are talking about. And what this does, like I said, it just helps you have many midfielders, many players in midfield as compared to to teams who play a 4-2-3-1. Right, with a times 3 midfielders, or teams who play a 4-3-3 with 3 midfielders, you're definitely going to have an overload. And of course, with the likes of Gabriel Jesus also dropping into midfield, we could have a midfield of up to 5 players, hence dominating the midfield. But that is not the only reason why we need to have a player like Jurrien Timber in our ranks when Alexander Zinchenko is not on the pitch. Just look at this. If you have Gabriel Jesus amongst centre backs, and you have Kai Havertz as well joining up, Martinelli joining into attack, Saka joining into attack, and Odegaard filling this space, you'd have Thomas Partey as your free midfield metronome. And of course, he's that guy that keeps things ticking whenever we face difficulty going forward. He's the guy that receives the ball, right? But just imagine having an extra player in midfield in Jurrien Timber. Now, Alexander Zinchenko has given us this very, very well throughout the last campaign. He's been that extra man in attack, in defense, in midfield. He's been the metronome. Actually, you could argue that Rodri being the metronome at Manchester City, Alexander Zinchenko has been the metronome of our midfield at Arsenal. and not Thomas Partey. Now, I understand Thomas Partey has had such a very, very, good campaign, a few bad games here and there, but he's had such a very, very wonderful campaign, the best of the rest ever since he joined Arsenal. But a player like Jurrien Timber, with his talent, literally means that we can control midfield even when we have 4-5 players in attack. So if the ball, where is the ball? All right, here it is. If the ball is repelled by the opponent's back line, we have 2 players already ready to win the ball back. Timber is a defender, so he's a very, very good player in terms of tackling, interception, and ball recovery, the same as Thomas Partey. But then this also means that you have 3 players just ready here to give you extra support in defense, in attack, and in midfield as well. So Jurrien Timber for me is going to become that second Alexander Zinchenko. He will also become, the player that Arsenal heavily rely upon. But I don't rule out the fact where a player like Gabriel is out of the team and Alexander Zinchenko pushes into midfield with Jurrien Timber. So you definitely have Timber pushing into midfield around here. We would have Alexander Zinchenko around here and Thomas Partey around these areas as well. So that means we would have a midfield of over 5 players without adding our striker, without our striker dropping into midfield. And that means if Gabriel Jesus drops into midfield, we have around 6 midfielders. Now, that will allow us control most games. In my opinion, we would control most games in the Premier League. We would be unstoppable in terms of ball control and ball progression. There is also a very big problem with that system. It means that when you're taken on the break, you have 2 players in Jurrien Timber and Alexander Zinchenko that might not be able to help because they are very, very advanced in advanced areas. But let me know, Jurrien Timber, Arsenal signing, Arsenal new system could be unlocked with this guy. Is he as exciting as I think he is? Let me know in the comment box below, and we'll be talking much more of Arsenal transfers in our next videos. We'll also be doing Arsenal, an Arsenal transfer Q&A maybe later this week. Just keep to Arsenal, Cossy's Arsenal podcast. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.